Welcome back to Analytical Media. We are a consortium, a group of therapists, college professors, and well-published peer-reviewed authors. Today's question concerns low self-esteem and sadness. And let me read you the letter that came with this. I wanted to become a welder because we build projects and I had design input. When I was going to college for my associate's degree in welding, I had internet and began to discover video gaming. I had a change of heart and wanted to become a YouTuber or a video game developer, but quickly realized that although I'm better at video games than my few friends, I am really just average. I began to think that I would never be good enough to fulfill my new dream. The thought that in 2 years of teaching myself how to edit, build, and convert 3D models into various video games could really only be used for those specific games, which I would never be good enough to be considered. After college, I went to work as a welder, and in my free time continued to play video games and work with 3D models. Playing video games and 3D modeling worked for a while to distract me from my negative thoughts, but I find myself becoming more and more depressed and wanting to be left alone. I rarely ever feel happiness and feel as though I am nothing but worthless. I wish for something to change. However, quitting my job as a welder and making an attempt at YouTubing is disapproved of by my parents, as they feel that any job that doesn't prove lucrative immediately is not to be considered. All I know for certain is that something needs to change. I think the most important takeaway here is that the individual writing this knows for certain that something needs to change. And he knows that in his life, he has negative thoughts. He needs the 3D modeling to help suppress his negative thoughts. But he says, I find myself becoming more and more depressed and wanting to be left alone, which is a sign of depression, clinical depression. I rarely ever feel happiness and feel as though I am nothing but worthless. He says, I wish for something to change, however, quitting my job as a welder and making an attempt at YouTubing is disapproved of by my parents. So, it's pretty clear here, and fortunately so, that he recognizes he needs to change to feel happiness. He says, I rarely ever feel happiness, and he feels as though he is nothing but worthless. He wants to make a change, and he's identified why his parents are the cause of his not changing. He's trying to live for them. He's a college graduate now, and he has to take responsibility for his own life. His parents won't be there to direct him for the entirety of his life. He needs to take control. I understand the pressure he feels to conform with his parents' desires for him. He feels the need to make them happy, to please them. But he recognizes that his path in life is not satisfying to him. He needs a career change, but he can't get it because his parents will get upset with his choice. They'll disapprove of him and perhaps remove their love and support from him. So we've identified the problem, or at least he has identified the problem. And at this point in time, he has to deal with it. He can deal with it by getting help, by going to therapy or counseling of some sort. But most effectively, through self-understanding, he should accept the fact that it's his life for better or worse, and his decisions are not going to affect his parents, they're going to affect him. His parents made their decisions, and now it's up to him to make his decisions. And though it would be nice to have their approval and to have one big happy family, his parents are not the issue. He is the issue. For him, his life is the issue. For his life to get better, according to him, for him to feel happiness again, for him to feel something other than worthless, he needs to change. He might be completely wrong that YouTubing or video gaming is the correct career for him. He might be totally wrong. But welding is not the career for him. Welding does not make him happy. It makes him feel worthless. He thinks he should go to gaming or YouTubing, but chances are he is being too specific. Maybe something related to computers, maybe something related to websites would be suitable, would work. Or maybe none of those things. Maybe he needs to talk to career counseling to find out what would be the right career for him. There are testing centers available at every community college and every college of any sort. There are testing centers that will test him to see what would make him happy, to test his likes and dislikes and compare it to the likes and dislikes of persons in other careers. The thinking behind it is, if you like to do these things and dermatologists like to do these things, chances are you should be a dermatologist. If you like to do these things, like to do this, like to do that, then engineers like to do exactly the same things that you do, or most of those things. So your career may be as an engineer or a social worker or whatever. And those tests are very accurate. In other words, they're well designed because a certain profession, members of that profession like to do, read a book, play video games, whatever. They are more intrinsically motivated and less extrinsically motivated. So if they're like that and you're like that and they are veterinarians, chances are you'd be happy as a veterinarian. Nothing's perfect, nothing's 100%, but those tests do work well, at least to point you in a different direction. And it could be one you have never thought of. And he might be wrong to be so specific about his future career, YouTubing or 3D video gaming. And that may come from his parents, who are very specific, very goal-oriented. There's no vagaries in their thinking. And perhaps he's learned that from them. So he's narrowed it down himself, perhaps prematurely. Now, what can we learn from this? Well, he has some insight. He knows that what he's doing is not good for him. He doesn't know how to get out of what he's doing. He is feeling a bit overwhelmed, but he does show good insight to say that his career is wrong for him. He needs a different career to be happy. This is exactly what individuation, Carl Jung's concept, is about. It's about the idea that there is an inner you, let's call it the real you, and then there is the external you. The external you is based on the inner you, but it's been contaminated by reality, by life, by your parents, how you were raised, by your classmates in school, by your success or failure. It's been contaminated. And the more you move away from the real you into a different you, a modified you, a contaminated you, the more unhappy you will be, or the more depressed you will be. And according to Jung, this is a normal process where the conscious mind, which is you, the conscious mind is the you that is listening to this video. The conscious mind then is pushed into the unconscious through depression. It's depressed, it's pushed down, it's depressed into the unconscious, where you're searching for answers, searching for things, and making contact with the real you. As you come away from that, you then change a little bit. It may take a week, it might take 5 years. You may never succeed, but you're gaining insight. That's the attempt. That's his explanation for depression, to be pushed down into the unconscious mind, so that you may become more like the real you. And it might mean many things: giving up your current friends, no longer pleasing your parents, maybe getting divorced, but that's what's necessary for you to be more like the real you. And the more you are like the real you, the happier you will be, the more successful you will be. Mental health will improve. Overall happiness will just continue to grow every day. And of course, individuation, as I've said dozens of times before, is very much like self-actualization. Very, very similar ideas. That Jung is saying there's a real you. Well, Maslow's saying there's the self, your real self, the true self. And that is an unconscious, or it resides in the unconscious. Your happiness will come from making real or actualizing the true self, who you were meant to be. And that's the only way you'll be happy. If you have any questions about this, please put them in the comments section. Email them to us. We can go over it as much as you'd like. We can go into it in greater depth. This is Analytical Media. I hope we've been of assistance to you. I hope we've given you more to think about. These are real questions sent to our therapists. Please subscribe, recommend the channel to other people, and I hope we will meet again. Take care.